All right, hello everyone. This is practice test 2B for Algebra 2. This is day 2, so I do have a video of the first page, so this video will cover the second and third page. Today's video is all about the graphing. So let's get into it. All right, so as we look at this page, we see that we've talked about a bunch of ways to graph. And I find whenever I grade this page for people's tests, they do the wrong one for the wrong type, if that makes sense. So on test day, I would super recommend going through and label each one before you start. So I look at number 1 here, or number 6. I see it's in this form. It really looks like my y equals mx plus b, so I know I'm going to be drawing a line for this one. Okay. I also see it has an equal sign, so I know I'm not going to have shading. Okay. This one also has kind of the y equals mx plus b kind of thing. We'll talk about this one. This one's special. But this one is also going to form a line, and it also has an equal sign, so there's no shading. Okay. Now this one down below, number 8, it has the absolute. So if we remember the absolute, that means I'm going to have a V shape. Okay, and that's also the same for number 10. I have an absolute, so I have a V shape. Okay. Now number 8, equal sign, so don't have to worry about that. Now number 9, it's kind of in our y equals mx plus b. We'll have to fix it a little bit, so I have a line, but also I need to notice there's an inequality sign, so that means I'm also going to have shading. This one, V, also inequality, so I'm going to have shading. So on your test, I just really recommend going through and doing that, only so you don't do the wrong kind of graph for the graph, and you would get it automatically wrong. Okay. Also, so I don't see shading everywhere, because that would also be wrong. All right, so our first one, number 6 here, as I said, so we know we're going to have a line, and it is secretly in y equals mx plus b. We just have to remember if there's no number on the back here, that means it's a 0. So that means our b is a 0 chilling back here. And then our m, or our slope, is -3. So I'm going to start here at 0. And then it's telling us, our slope is telling us to go down 3, right 1, down 3, right 1. Okay. I'll do the opposite just to have a couple points up here. So I'm going to go up 3, left 1. Okay. Because I'm talking nothing about shading, we're just going to connect our points here, throw a couple arrows on, and there we go. There is our line. So you will have one like that on your test tomorrow. Our next one here, now I did say it's going to be a line, but this is a special line. Because it's y equals number with no x on it, that means we're going to have a horizontal line. Whereas I'm just going to do a quick one down here just so we can review. If I had x equals number, remember that's going to mean I have a vertical line. Okay. All right. So to get a horizontal line at y equals 2, I need to be on my y line here. And it says y equals 2, so I'm going to put a dot here at 2, and then we just have a horizontal line. And what this horizontal line is saying, it says every single point, y equals 2. Okay, so those are our 2 lines. All right. For number 8, as we already said, because of the absolute value, we are going to be making a V. Remember, there's only 2 things that we really have to know about this to be able to answer all of this. I see the number in front. Reminder, the number in front represents my slope. So I'm just going to write that down here. My slope is 2. Okay. Remember, these 2 numbers form our vertex, but we do have to remember this number here, we have to flip the sign. So our vertex is going to be 2, -3. Okay. Now, axis of symmetry. Remember, axis of symmetry is a vertical line that goes through our V. And so since it's a vertical line, we represent that with an x equals, and it's whatever number is here in our vertex, because it goes through our vertex point. So that number will go here. So whatever's here is here. So obviously, if you answer vertex wrong, this will be wrong then, and then your graph will be wrong. So make sure you double check, did you flip your sign for your vertex? Okay. That's all we need to know. So now we can start graphing. So I'm going to do my vertex at 2, -3. So I'm going to go right 2, down 3. And then my slope says up 2, right 1, up 2, right 1. Okay. Now remember, we're supposed to get a V, so I'm going to go up 2, left 1, up 2, left 1. Okay. All right, and then we're going to just connect them, throw a couple arrows on the end, and we have our absolute graph. Okay. Now for these next two, I'm just going to do a quick review on the bottom of my page here because you guys have some space. Reminder, if you have these symbols, we are going to have a dashed line. Remember, if you have these symbols, we are going to have a solid line. If we have these symbols, sorry everyone, if we have these symbols, it means I'm going to shade above. And if I have these symbols, it means I'm going to shade below. Okay, so we're going to need to know all that information for our next couple problems here. Okay, so another thing I need you to study for your test tomorrow. All right, so now if I scroll back up, I'm noticing this problem here is not ready to graph. It's not in y equals mx plus b because I did say it's going to be a line, and to be able to graph we have to be in y equals mx plus b. So I'm just going to move that equation down so we can work with it. Okay. So the first thing I have to do to get this into y equals mx plus b, we're going to minus 2x on both sides. Okay. And then my last step is I'm going to divide everything by -3. Okay. So now, reminder, when we divide by -3, my inequality sign here is going to flip. So now what I'm graphing, I'm going to write it up here on my graph. So I'm going to say y is now less than. I have this double negative on the 2/3, so that's going to turn positive. And then at the end here, I have 12 divided by -3, so we're just going to have -4 there. Okay, so reminder, to be able to graph, you have to put in the y equals mx plus b, and if you divide by a negative, it causes your inequality sign to flip. Okay. All right, so this is telling us to start down at -4, and our slope is telling us to go up to right 3, so up to right 3, up to right 3, up to right 3. Okay. Our symbol, as we just reviewed, is telling us to do a dashed. Okay. And because we flipped the sign, it means we are shading below, so we're going to shade down over here. Okay. All right, so it's not in y equals mx plus b, make sure to put that in there, and then graph using all of our symbols properly. All right, this one we said it's a V, and we're going to have shading. I'm going to write this down here. So in front there I have a negative, so that means my slope is really -1. And my vertex, that 2 and that -4 is going to form it. Remember the 2, I have to flip it, so it's going to be -2 and then -4. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my vertex. So I'm going to go left 2, down 4. And then the slope is telling me to go down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. And then remember, we need to have the other side. So the negative in front is causing our V to be upside down because it's a x-axis reflection. And so that's why our V is upside down compared to number 8. And then my inequality symbol here is telling me to have a solid line. And it's telling us to shade below. So we'll shade this little triangle down here. All right, and there we go. All right, we have one last page, and then we are all done. All right. The next page is what we always do, is we are going to do the opposite. I have the graph, and we're going to write the equation. So the one on the left here, I see it's a line, so we're going to write this one in y equals mx plus b. Whereas this one is a v, so we're going to write it in our absolute equation. Okay. All right, first thing I like to look at is my shading and my line. So I see it's a dashed, and I see it's shaded below. So because of that, we're going to say y is less than, because it's dashed and shaded below. And then I'm going to look at where it's crossing the y-axis. So I see it's crossing here the y-axis at 1. So that represents our b there. So b equals 1. So I'm going to put it down here at the end here because that's my b. And then I'm just kind of looking what the graph is doing, and I look like it's going down 1, right 2, down 1. I'm sorry, down 2, right 1, down 2, right 1. So because it's going down, that tells us it's negative. And since it's going down 2 and right 1, that means it's going to be -2x. Okay. All right, our next one, again, I'm going to look at my line and my shading. So I see I have dashed again, and I see again it's shaded below. So that means we have another less than. This time we need to talk about our vertex. So our vertex is there at 4, 0. So that tells us we got to plug it into these two spots. And then our slope, remember our slope goes in front here. And it appears to me that our slope is going up one, right one, up one, right one, up one, right one. So that means if that's our slope, that goes in front here. So you could put a 1 in front or just leave it blank because the 1 doesn't change it. Inside here, remember this number is this number, but we have to flip it. So I'm going to turn it into a -4. And then at the end here, you could certainly say +0, but we don't need it. So remember, our vertex goes into these two blanks, and our slope goes into this blank. Okay. All right, that is it. Good luck, and I hope you study.